Sometimes a little hot and cold, and this is one of his better years. He's coming off a very recent win, and he also was the winner of the first Grand Prix of the year in February, the Michelob Grand Prix at Palm Beach.
And Jay Land, a young man who has put a great deal of time and effort, former rookie leader in the AGA Tour. And Leapy Lad, I think that question has been his most successful horse, Robert, as you mentioned, a recent winner in the Tour. Seems to be rounding into form, I would say, in mid-season right now. I think this is the best we've seen the horse all year long. He's clean through the first 6 efforts. Right-hand turn to number 7, and then the water. And look at the whip. He goes to the whip, the reins, and everything else, and he's clean over it. That's about as spectacular ride to the water as we're going to see.
Do you think that was a little bit of a setup maybe for the triple combination that he's about to face right now?
Maybe it was, and maybe he's going to pay the price for it right here. In other words, he charged his horse up a lot for the water. He's got to slow down a whole lot here. It worked out fine and rides out over the triple bar beautifully.
Loses a bell boot into the crowd. A bell boot is one of the rubber boots they put around the horse's ankles to protect themselves, especially in footing like this, from hitting themselves.
So he's going to be without that for the final 4 efforts. It crawls over number 12, and just plain lucky there. He just walk over that. A light rub at number 13, but he was too tight to it. Jay Land's maybe running out of gas himself a little bit here.
He took a little longer on this turn, though, to try to rest the horse.
He's going to be okay on time. Clean at 14A, and that's going to do it.
Tremendous performance. The 6th clean round. Jay Land from Atlanta, Georgia on Leapy Lad. The sport of Grand Prix show jumping, like all sports, has a language all its own. Lisa Burke cornered rider Buddy Brown to help us understand the special language of show jumping.
Riders have their own terminology, and I think you'll see that very shortly when you hear Buddy Brown speak. Buddy, what is the difference between the 2 horses that you show, Aramis and Sugar Ray, in a rider's term?
Well, Aramis is a warm blood that's very scopy, but he has a tendency to dwell up over his jumps. So that might be a little difficult for him in a tight ring like this. But I think he's got the scope, and he's very flexible. He's very supple around the turns. He should be all right. Sugar Ray is a thoroughbred. He jumps in what we consider classic form, but he has a tendency to be a little quick and flat behind. And he's a little more sensitive.
I'm sure you didn't understand much of that, if at all, but we're going to take it word by word, and Buddy will explain to us what he meant. Buddy, what did you mean by scopy?
Well, scopy is a term we use to describe a horse that has more than average ability. He can leave from a longer distance to a wide jump and still get over it. He can leave out of balance and still get across a wide jump. Or he can just be off stride and still make it work out.
What do you mean by dwell?
Dwell is like hang time, like a punter's hang time. It's when a horse will leave the ground and end up landing, hanging up in the air and landing going slower than he left the ground, which causes trouble in a combination.
And a combination means?
It's usually a series of jumps very quickly, one right after the other, either 1 or 2 strides apart, usually 3 in a row.
And you say strides. What exactly is that?
Strides is what we use to determine how many actual steps or a stride the horse takes between a jump. And we can help control the amount we take, either adding or subtracting, knowing the length of our own horse's stride.
Liverpool.
Liverpool is water under an obstacle. It's usually a 6 or 8 foot wide water with an obstacle built over it, contrary to the water jump, which is just 12 foot wide, just a water and no rails or anything usually over it.
And you said one of your horses was quick and flat behind.
Well, that's when, especially with a thoroughbred, they have so much quickness off the ground that instead of jumping up, sometimes they'll jump at a jump. And if they don't use their hips well and get their hind end higher, they'll be a little quick across the jump and catch the rail with their hind end. Now that you've been educated to some of our terminology, see how you can interpret this phrase for yourself. All right, the combinations are usually the hardest part of the course. That's where you require the most rider and horse communication, especially if it's a short to a long combination using a Liverpool or wide oxers. You really have to have good communication between the horse and rider for the combinations.
Back at Devon, we've got Louis Jacobs, a 23-year-old rider from East Aurora, New York. He'll be trying to tackle the first round of the Cadillac American Gold Cup on a horse named Desiree. Brian, this is a different looking horse.
A very different looking horse, and it's I guess an oddball in that sense, Robert. It's probably not a horse that you or I, if we looked at it, would say, boy, that's going to be a great Grand Prix show jumper, just looking at it stand still. However, as it turns out, this is a very careful, very quick individual who's had some very, very good finishes this year.
And as our audience knows, it really doesn't matter what the horse looks like or how they jump, as long as that jump is still there when they land on the ground afterwards.
Louis Jacobs yesterday, just an interesting note, I was in North Salem, New York for the ASPCA finals and equitation finals for riders under 18. Louis was there helping to train his brother, who incidentally qualified for the national finals. Louis then came back here to prepare for this major event today, but Louis was on hand at 7 o'clock yesterday morning in North Salem just to help his brother out, and apparently did a very good training job. Now the right-hand turn at the end of the ring, he's still clean for the first 6 numbered efforts. Number 7, which had come down frequently earlier in competition, still up. Hard ride to the water at number 8, cleans the call again by Adolphe Magavro. And the right-hand turn to number 9 at the end of the ring. Little difficulty holding his horse off there and gets a rub, but that's all. Triple combination, very slow here and very tight. Leg rub behind. Oh, tried that one, and look out. 4 faults, and that's about as spectacular a 4 faults as you're ever going to see, as Louis did the 2 strides very well. His horse tried to jump out in 1 stride, and that's 2, regardless of how you cut it, Robert.
Now, when these riders walk the course in the morning, they know what the distances are, and the riders know that that's a 2-stride and a 2-stride. Evidently, the horse didn't know it.
No, he sure didn't. He came off of 10B with a little bit of power, and it looked to the horse at that stage like 1 stride was going to be easier. Well, as it turned out, it wasn't, but that might be a great example of 2020 hindsight. And he's going to finish with 4 more faults at 14B, and a dozen will be his score.
Bothered by the last elements of both combinations, 8 faults for Louis Jacobs. Let's see what really did happen by coming to the triple. It looked like he was jumping in just fine.
He slowed down very well and does the first 2 parts here awfully well. He leaves the ground very powerfully, however, at 10B. You'll notice how far he lands to the other side of 10B. At that point, it looked easier to the horse's eye to leave the ground, and Louis was actually asking him to do it, too. There was no effort on his part to make him hold up and make him add the other stride. The horse at that stage took over. You see what happened.
He's lucky to still be on his feet.
You aren't kidding. That's a standard right to his left-hand side there that he's trying to literally pick out of his boots.
In early December, the AGA will present the Michelob AGA Championships in Tampa, Florida. In addition to the $150,000 in prize money, the winning rider will receive a 1988 Cadillac of their choice. Cadillac is the proud sponsor of this year's AGA series of Grand Prix show jumping events.
Imagine a vehicle with a rare combination of talents. A driver-oriented cockpit, electronically fuel-injected power, a rear-wheel anti-lock brake system, and responsive ride and handling. Now imagine all this not in a car, but in a pickup. The big new full-size 1988 Sierra pickup from GMC Truck. But beware, once you see how much a GMC Truck offers, you'll find that one just won't be enough. GMC Truck, it's not just a truck anymore.
I'll show you a morning like you've never seen. I'll show you a land where there's still room to dream. And you'll find the wonders that I've always known, 'cause I call Australia home.
Introducing AmberVision, the most amazing breakthrough in vision technology since glasses were invented. These super glasses actually improve vision indoors, outdoors, day or night. We guarantee it. Look, AmberVision blocks the blurring blue rays, the same rays that cause haze and fog.
Everything is so much crisper and clearer.
I can't believe my own eyes. They're amazing.
AmberVision blocks 100% of the dangerous ultraviolet light with UV 400, the best protection for your eyes. You'll wear these high-fashion glasses all year round, and one size fits all.
Oh, I can't believe the difference.
Catalogs offer similar glasses for $59.95, but now you can order AmberVision for just $10 on this special offer. Seeing is believing, so order AmberVision today.
Clip-on model is also available. Credit card users call 1-800-445-4000. That's 1-800-445-4000. Or send just $10 plus $250 shipping to AmberVision, Box 2500-E, West Caldwell, New Jersey, 07007.
Approaching the first fence, we see Peter Leone from New York City. a horse named Oxo, owned by the Rearm Farm of Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Peter's brother, Mark, has already been around this course with an 8-fault score. Do you think he's been able to tell Peter what to avoid?
I think to a certain extent he has. This particular horse has been clean over this particular course before in this particular event, I should say. Peter, a veteran of this event, with a horse who seems to suit this ring fairly well. He's got a rather slow stride. He has an incredibly long stride. He is right at this particular point on course is a very ready horse, as they say, a little bit sharper perhaps than I've seen him. I would look for the combination 10AB to be some trouble unless he can slow him down and just kind of back off the jets just a little bit. At very tight 2 strides at 10AB, I'll be very curious to see how he wants to solve that.
He looked like between 5 and 6 just there. That horse kind of increased his tempo a little bit.
He sure did, and he's gonna, here comes the water. Obviously he's going to increase the tempo there. He's clean, but I believe the hard part of the course for Peter Leon and Oxo are going to come up right after jump number 9. Beautiful ride to number 9 and clean over that, and here comes the hard part for this combination. Horse is a little bit ready so far on course. He's tight there, he's clean. And clean there. That more a horse effort, and that was a great effort by the horse because he was too tight to 10B and too quick, predictably, to leave it up, but he's clean over it.
He had about half a foot to spare through the triple.
Light rub at number 11, still clean. This horse with a spectacular physical effort so far because he is a little bit more ready than I've seen him before, a little bit sharper, a little bit quicker, a little bit stronger, if you will. A lot more horse in Peter Leon's hands. Tight to number 13 and a rub there. He's going to take some time here to slow him down now. He's got plenty of time left to finish. Plenty of time to slow him down, and that's going to be the effort here. You see the effort lifting his head there to 14A, and he's going to be clean.
Well, Mark must have been a great coach because that is another clean round here in Devon, Pennsylvania. Peter Leon and Oxo. Hey, Brian, his horse, Oxo, was getting a little tense here, and now he's again approaching the triple combination.
Peter taking great care there to slow his horse down. Going to take his mouth here again. You'll watch him lift and hold him off. His horse still running forward there and just fires his legs out of the way. That a great effort on the horse's part. Peter presses him forward to the triple bar. Really didn't need to. His horse had already created that step, but a marvelous jumping effort there by Oxo. And again, a little bit stronger than I've seen him, but he sure did jump beautifully.
Brian, Bert DeNemethy, the course designer today, was the designer for the 1984 Olympics, and as in most of his courses, the combinations are the problem.
Combinations incredibly difficult. They have been. The triple combination fences 10ABC. 12 times has come down so far. 10B has come down 6 times. That's the middle jump, the gate, a very tight 2 strides to it. At 10C, that's come down 4 times so far, but there have been 2 complete crashes at it, as we call them, with horses literally swimming all over it. The double combination, last 2 fences on course, has come down a total of 8 times, the most of any. 14A, the first fence, has come down 7 times, 14B once. So again, as Robert, as you mentioned, they're traditionally a problem with Bert DeNemethy's courses, and today is sure no exception.
We're just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Devon Horse Show grounds, and we have the hero of the crowd today, Rodney Jenkins, the all-time winningest Grand Prix rider in the history of the sport. Rodney is riding Heisman, the second horse, in fact, that he's ridden today. He was the very first one in the order earlier this morning in the pre-jumping on the horse he rode in the Pan Am Games at Indianapolis, Czar. He did not go clean on that horse, and he'll be trying to get into the jump off with this one.
And Rodney, I think a rather disappointing score for him, at least on his first horse, Czar, as you mentioned. Rodney began an incredible string at Devon, right in this ring, earlier this year on May 28th on aerobic, winning the Devon Motors Grand Prix. Went on, won the Upperville Classic on June 7th. The next week, won in Darien, Connecticut on June 14th, a week later. The Prudential Base, the American Jumping Classic in June 25th. 4 almost in a row, 4 consecutive wins for Rodney Jenkins. He hasn't quite raised up back to that incredible level of competition since, however, still way ahead in the Rider of the Year standings. Rodney clean through the first 2 efforts on course now. And Robert, as you mentioned, this predictably probably not, as he would view it, the horse that he would win the event on. However, it's his shot right now.
And Rodney has surprised us in the past. So many times, of course, not a surprise anymore. He has such a lead in the AGA standings, a 42-point lead, that Well, I'll put it in perspective. There are only 10 riders out of the 160 AGA riders that even have 42 points, let alone lead the second place rider, who happens to be Greg Best, by